Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Martina. I am a China trained medical doctor currently working in Nigeria. I help students get admission to study in China, and I also try, mentor students, talk to them, and ensure that they create their own success stories as China trained doctors and medical students. So in this video, I want to address something that is very common in my comment section. So when I see some of you asking, oh, I want to study in China, oh, how can I study in China? I also notice that there are some people that come and say, don't study in China, you're going to regret it. I'm studying in China and I regret it. I made the wrong decision. I see comments like that and I'm just like, take a look at me. I am an example. I studied in China for 6 years. I have graduated. I have been able to get my medical license here in my country. I'm currently working as a doctor in my country, and I hope to move to also get a license of another international country, and you guys are going to watch me do it as a China trained doctor. So all of you that are just in the comment section saying, oh no, don't study in China, you're just going to waste your time. I don't know what exactly you're doing in China, but you are getting things wrong. So I feel like a lot of people just expect that because you're studying in China, you expect to be spoon-fed, and that is something I try to emphasize in my videos, especially videos that I title "Do Not Study in China." Because if you're not willing to work, if you're not willing to put in the work, I would always say don't study in China, because nobody is going to force you to go to classes. Nobody is going to teach you. If you don't understand and if you don't ask questions, nobody is going to force you. So a lot of the work is on you. It's on you to put in the effort. It's on you to decide to study. It's on you to ask questions. It's for you to meet your teachers for more explanation. And from my experience as a student, I noticed that it's very easy for you to come to China, do the 6 years, and honestly you will not learn anything, because you need a 60 to pass. And if most people can survive getting a 60 or having to do supplementary exams, that is when you fill an exam, you do a receipt and you're able to pass it, and at the end of the day you will graduate. But most times you may not learn anything. In order for you to learn, you need to put in the extra effort. You need to go study by yourself. You need to teach yourself. You need to use international resources. You need to use online resources. You need to find out from people in other countries, oh, what books are you using to study? Because you're studying in China does not put you in a cage. Don't put all the work on your professors, on the doctors to teach you, and say, oh, because the doctor did not teach me this, then that's all. I don't understand that topic. You are a student and you're supposed to also put in the effort to learn by yourself. And this is very common among medical students that go to study in China. And that is after the class, they just go home and that's the end. They're not picking up their books to study anymore, or they're only studying the PPT slides that the teacher has given. And honestly, that is not enough. Your teacher is not going to force you to read textbooks. Your teacher is not going to punish you. You're an adult. And this is basically the reason why people come to my comment section and they say, oh, don't study in China, because they just leave a lot of work for the teachers to come and do. And when they don't understand the topic, they're just like, oh, Chinese schools are not good, they won't teach you properly, and that is all, without making any effort by themselves to learn. So if you're a student intending to study in China, you need to be willing to put in the work. If you want to go into research, nobody is going to drag you and say, oh, come get this research opportunity, oh, come work on this paper with me. Nobody is going to do that with you. The opportunities I got was because, oh, I noticed that other medical students in other countries, in particular the US, that I kept on watching medical students in the US, and I noticed a lot of them were getting into research, working on research papers, and I was wondering, okay, don't we do these things in China too? And I decided to reach out to my professors on my own, without anyone having to tell me that, oh, join this, or oh, do this. You are not going to be spoon-fed, and don't expect to be spoon-fed. If you're someone that has been complaining about your education in China, stop complaining. As a student, you're already in the school, you're already enrolled in the process. What you should think about is how to make the process better for you. From my experience working as a doctor, I always felt that, oh, maybe people in other countries had medicine or had the medical studies better than I did because I was studying in China. you know, for a moment I also felt like, oh, maybe it would be better to study in another country than studying in China because of some of these challenges. But while working as a doctor and working with colleagues that have studied in other places, I have noticed that it is the same everywhere. Nobody is going to spoon feed you. You have to study by yourself. You see students finish from classes, they go home, they study like 5 hours extra every day. Medical students that study in China, a lot of them don't do this. They just go home and they rest and just think that, okay, if I did not understand it in class, that is all. I just wait and study for exams. That is not how it works. You have to put in the extra effort to study by yourself. So when I had the opportunity to work with doctors from other places, it also made me, to an extent, compare our training, compare our understanding. And while working as a doctor, it's so funny because there are so many things that I thought that I was not taught in school. One day I was going through my Snapchat and Instagram randomly, going through my memories, and I saw some videos I made in class, and I was like, oh, they actually taught me this thing. Because when I'm in the hospital and they ask me, oh, do you know this, oh, explain this, I'm like, oh, I can't remember. And I also can't remember being taught that in class. But coincidentally, I saw a video of my PPT slide of my teacher teaching me that same thing that I said, oh, maybe they didn't teach me, or maybe I can't remember. So now sometimes I want to go through my school PPTs when I'm, you know, in a particular department, or I have a particular patient with a certain disease, and I see that I actually have been taught these things. And a lot of us China-trained students and doctors have been taught these things, but because we don't go back to study it, we don't go back to review it, and because maybe when you forget, you just forget and you move on to the next grade, you think, oh, you don't know these things. Most times you're going to forget what you learn, but it's up to you to always go back to review it, because medicine most times is the same everywhere. We just feel like we need to be, everybody just feels like the grass is greener on the other side, which is not true. So when you're studying in a particular place, even if it's not China, once you're already enrolled, except your school is not accredited or there's academic discrimination or things like that, then you can say, oh, okay, I cannot study here, I have to leave. But when your only complaint is that you are not understanding or your professors are not teaching you well enough, you need to also put in the extra effort to learn by yourself. Because for us in China, there is no situation where you will go to your professor and say, oh, I did not understand this, and they will not make the effort to explain it to you. They always want to explain it to you, and they try to explain to the best of their ability. But if you do not ask questions, they will not know what to answer. If you do not also read by yourself, you know, come up with some extra things that you have learned to bring up in class, it may not be brought up. So this is just how it works. So for all those of you thinking, oh, don't go and study in China, the system is bad, that is not true. Like I said, I'm a China-trained doctor and I am doing very well. I am learning, even the things I have learned in China that I forgot, I'm going back to review them, and I'm learning and I'm making progress in my career. And like I said, I'm going to continue to make progress, and you guys are going to watch me do it on this channel as a China-trained doctor, just so that you will know that it is possible. And because you studied in China does not make you less qualified than anybody else. All you have to do is to be willing to put in the work, because at the end of the day, you all have the same medical degree. I have the same medical degree as someone that studied in Ukraine, in Russia, here in Nigeria, in India. We all have the same degree. We are all doctors. But what makes you a better doctor is who goes home after work, after school, and puts in the extra effort to study, the extra effort to learn more about that particular disease or about that particular patient. That is who the better doctor is. That is who will be able to manage cases better. That is who will be more confident to speak about a particular disease and will not feel ashamed or feel like they are not good enough. Because something I've come to learn while working as a doctor is that when I started working, I noticed I was not confident. I noticed I did not enjoy this job. I didn't enjoy working as a doctor, and that was mostly because I was not learning, I was not understanding, I was not reading. But when I did my O&G posting, my consultants were encouraging me to read this, explain this, go make presentation on this. Oh, you have to, like, they kept on questioning us during rounds, and I was so encouraged to read, and I really enjoyed O&G, and I learned a lot. Funny enough, I just finished internal medicine yesterday, and I actually, before I did internal medicine, I thought this would be one of my worst postings. But honestly, I have learned so much in internal medicine. I was in pulmonology, that's respiratory. I have learned so much, I have read so much. At this point in my unit, they call me a TB expert because I can handle almost everything related to tuberculosis, because I have studied so many respiratory diseases. Every time I come to work, they're asking me questions, you know, about certain cases. So how would you manage? How would you treat? What is the pathophysiology? So I'm always going back to my book to read and review, and I've noticed that I have become more confident. I'm able to handle cases that I see even without asking my seniors. I know what next to do. And I just noticed that the more I learned, the more I understood, the more I started to love this job, the more I started to be more confident in myself. And that was just it. I just noticed that the reason I was always complaining about being a doctor and not liking it was just because I didn't have stuff. I wasn't reading. And once I started reading, once I started understanding, I started to enjoy the job more. And basically, that's just how it is. You as a doctor, as a medical student, you have to put in the effort by yourself. If you read something and you forget it, it is okay. You can always go back and read it again. Whenever you see a patient in the hospital with a certain condition, always go back and read it again. That is how we learn. We have a particular consultant that said, for every time you see a particular case in the hospital, go back and read it. So even if it's something as simple as pneumonia, for every time a patient comes in with pneumonia, go back and read it. No matter how many times, always go back and read it. And that is how you learn as a doctor. I hope this video encourages you as a medical student in China, or as someone aspiring to study medicine in China. So yeah, that's all for this video. If you guys don't know, I am an agent and I help students process admission to studying in China. Currently, we are on the last week of applications for the autumn intake. So if you're interested in studying medicine in this September 2022 intake, feel free to reach out to me, or whatever intake you're interested in, reach out to me, because applications for next intake will also open up. So yeah, I wish you guys all the best. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. As usual, leave a comment down below if you have any questions, and I'll be able to film more videos answering your questions about studying in China. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want more videos like this, and if you enjoyed this video. I'll also continue to share my experience as a doctor, vlog my experience in the hospital. Although you guys are not watching that as much, but I'll continue to document it for those that really want to see my journey, and for you guys that think, oh, don't study in China because it's not good. You will see my journey, and you will see how I am going to progress as a China trained doctor. Okay guys, bye.